First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic. And before we start and hand it off to Tim, there's a lot of people that donate a lot of time and money and of service to this group that helps it grow and helps it. We had the Al-Anon step workshop today. They donated a lot of food to us. It's really great. Anytime we actually have a lot of Al-Anoners come here. Lucille's here, and we can go running names off forever. But they are an important part of our recovery. We work together with them, and we just like to thank them for what they sent us. What else? Tim, go ahead and do this. We'll get underway, and we'll have some fun.
Hi folks, and welcome to tonight's Conscious Contact Speakers Group of AA. I am Tim, and I am an alcoholic. Folks, this is a 1-hour speaker meeting. We meet here every Saturday night, St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, PA. The purpose of our group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, please simply ask. This is an open meeting of AA. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers, and if there is anyone here tonight for the first time or from out of town who would like to introduce themselves, could we do so now with your first name? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Brian, alcoholic.
Welcome, Brian. Welcome. Glad to have you. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, Katie. Yes, sir.
Anthony, alcoholic.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
Joanne, alcoholic.
Welcome, Joanne. All the way in the back, sir.
I'm Joey, I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Joey. Yes, sir.
Barry, alcoholic.
Very welcome. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, Sue. Nice to have you. All the way in the back. Two of you guys. Go ahead.
I'm Daniel.
Welcome, Danny. How you doing? Jimmy, welcome. Sir.
Tyler, alcoholic.
Welcome, Tyler. And Hat. Welcome, sir. Yes.
John, alcoholic.
Welcome, John. And back. Nick, welcome. You're here.
I'm Cote. I'm powerless over alcohol.
Marcote, welcome. Yes, sir. All right, welcome. Yes, sir.
Jimmy, alcoholic.
Jimmy, welcome. Yes, sir, right here in front of us.
Ken, alcoholic.
Ken, welcome. All right, very good. The Conscious Contact Group does encourage sponsorship, but anyone who has a working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands now. Fantastic. Are there any messages tonight or announcements for AA? Okay. We have a meeting list and big books on easy terms. Please see me or anyone else in the home group after the meeting if you'd like a copy. If you can't afford a big book, don't worry, we'll cover it for you. We'll make sure one's available to you at no charge. Anyone who's willing, though, to make donations for the purchase of big books and for the CDs, the blank CDs that we use, there is a little jar in the back table. You can drop a few dollars in there if you wouldn't mind. If you would like a copy of a CD of tonight's speaker or any speaker in the past, please see me or Ron. We'll make sure that those are available to you. And again, those are available to you at no charge. I would now like to introduce Zach to come up, and Zach's going to read our preamble.
What's up, guys? My name's Zach. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've asked Sanjay to come up and please read the 12 steps.
All right, hi, my name is Sanjay. I'm an alcoholic. All right, so step one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step four, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step five, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step six, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step seven, humbly asked Him to remove all our shortcomings. Step eight, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step nine, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, to continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, saw through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thank you.
Folks, we do have a seventh tradition here. It does state that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions, and this time we're going to pass the baskets from the outside in. As you can see, it was a heck of a spread tonight. It's not all our doing. There's a lot of donations from the Al-Anon group today, so we want to thank them as well. But again, normally there's all kinds of stuff back there. There's cronuts and ham sliders and all kinds of goodies, so if you don't mind, please donate. There's absolutely no smoking anywhere on the church property. We've said that a bunch of times, and again, we're going to keep reiterating. If you do have a moment now while you're reaching in your pocket for a few dollars to take your cell phones out and mute them or turn them off, they can be a distraction during our presentation tonight. It is a real treat tonight to introduce our speaker. He has traveled to us tonight from Manhattan, and he's on loan to us tonight from the Renewal West group. It's a great pleasure to introduce tonight our speaker, Jimmy Kay.
Hi, I'm Jim and I'm an alcoholic. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you, Ron, for asking me to speak. I'm Irish Catholic from Boston. Have a feeling, have a drink. Feel good, have a drink to feel better. Feel bad, have a drink to feel better. Or oftentimes I would drink to feel worse. Poor me, you don't know. You know. And sometimes I'd feel nothing, so I'd drink to feel something. My mom and my godfather ran a bar in Boston. I spent a lot of my early years smelling sawdust and stale beer. When my mom needed a babysitter, she would put us in the booth and go do her thing at the bar. You know, if you left one of your kids in the booth now, you'd get arrested. And in those days, it was just part of life, especially in Irish Catholic neighborhoods. You know, Ron sent me the poster that he was sending tonight. I want to tell a little story, and I've already spoken to the person involved with this, so it's okay. So he sent me the poster, and it's a picture of the Joker, right? And my sponsee is the one who found that guy when he died. And I was taken back by it. You know, what was that? How would, you know, that's how God works. I sent the poster to DL, and she said the same thing. She said, wow, that's wild. You know, when that happened, we were trying to help that guy get sober. And when she found him, DL, you know, the message was DL was in the program, around the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. But when that guy passed away, when she found him, she had two choices. She could drink, or she could throw herself back into AA. really get involved in the program. And what she decided to do was really get involved with Alcoholics Anonymous. And just because somebody doesn't get it doesn't mean that you can't. Oftentimes people don't get this program and they die, but I get the gift of wake up, pay attention. What's going on? When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, someone said, in a meeting this size, someone said, someone in this room is not going to be with us this time next year. Sure enough, that's just AA. Only 1 out of 37 alcoholics ever get to an AA meeting. And only half of those stay. And I'm one of the lucky guys. My sober date's January 1st, 1988. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor. I have a home group, the Renewal West group of Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on 87th Street between Broadway and West End. If you're in the neighborhood, we'd love to have you. It's a group about this size. We have a nice little sweets table. We don't have sandwiches and things like that. We just have sweets because there's a lot of newcomers, people with less than a year's sobriety. And it's a very social group. In that group, we learn how to live and interact. Because I didn't know how to do that. Growing up, I was one of the, always a smart kid, always loved to read, always loved to play sports. That's what I did. I read. I escaped through reading and sports. If I had a feeling, usually my feelings were, I'm not good enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not anything enough. My dad left when I was 3. My mom used to say, you're just like your father. A week later, she'd say, your father is a blankety blank. So I would take that week and compress it. I'm just like my father's a blank. And I carried that around with me. She didn't know what she was doing. She was just doing what they had done to her. And for years I thought, those are the reasons I thought I wasn't good enough. But when I got to high school, I wasn't on the sports team. I wasn't the smartest kid anymore. I just was a regular kid. And then a kid named Shaky Krusko, who was on the hockey team, said to me, we all go to Harvard Square on Friday nights. We get a couple six-packs and we hang out. I was like, great. I just wanted to be a part of. So every Friday we'd go to Harvard Square and get a six-pack, and like 3 of us would split a six-pack. I thought it was great. I couldn't wait to go back. I was one of the guys. And after a couple cocktails, I was good enough. I was smart enough. I was tall enough. I was good-looking enough. I could talk to girls. That thing when you're like 14 or 15 years old and you're trying to talk to the opposite sex and you're shucking and jiving. Give me a cold Budweiser. And hi there. Instant courage. Instant confidence. I was in all the academically talented classes in high school. All the kids were going to go to Harvard, MIT, Boston College. They were on the basketball team, the baseball team, the hockey team, the debate team. I decided to join the Get High team. My life became in freshman in high school. Friday and Saturday drinking in Harvard Square. Meet before school on Monday, pitch in our money, get a couple quarts of beer, and that's just the way it went. I went from being in all the academically talented classes, by the time I was a senior in high school, I was in all the welcome back Cotter classes. In the 5th grade, I could read like a 12th grader. In the 12th grade, I was in classes with kids who read like 5th graders. And I never connected the dots. One of my teachers would say, look at Jimmy King back there, he's high again. And that's how I lived. I stopped going to school. By that time, I was a virtual high school dropout. And I started to do things to get money to get high. I love to drink. People will come in and they'll tell you they love to do this, they love to do that. Drinking was I just romanticized it as much as I could. I love being in bars. I love the smells. I love the sounds. I love the lies. I thought everybody in bars was having a great time. I didn't know that they were stuffing everything. By the time I was a senior in high school, everybody was getting ready to go to the prom and graduate. In a drunken blackout, I was arrested for armed robbery and kidnapping. It's like, okay. I said to the policeman at the station, I'm ready to go home now. He's like, you're not going anywhere. I got 2 years in a men's correctional facility at 17. And I just romanticized it. I got high in jail every day, any way you can imagine. I read The Godfather, because I was going to be the first Irish Catholic in the Mafia. I read Papillon. I used to tell people, because I was from Cambridge, I used to tell people I was a political prisoner. They want me off the street. And I was just a drunk, just a drunk. I immediately joined the escape committee. And one day I had a little buzz on, walking around the yard, and someone said, we should go now. And I was like, let's go. And the next thing, we're up and over 2 12-foot high barbed wire fences, and they're chasing us through the woods, shooting at us, dogs, helicopters, all points bulletin. And I'm like, what did I do? All the result of my alcoholism. Sober, I'm a pretty level-headed guy. Hey, let's think about this for a minute. Do we really want to go now? They caught me about 3 hours later. They gave me one of the beatings of my life, broke a couple ribs, threw me in the hole for a month, and I became an instant hero. I was a stand-up guy now. Oh, don't mess, he's crazy, I do that crazy thing. And I was just afraid. When they said, let's go, I was afraid of what they were going to think of me if I said no. And the guy who said, let's go, 6 of us went up and over the fence. The guy who said, let's go, didn't even go. So they tacked a little more time on. They opened up a new security wing of this prison, and I became the first inductee. And I was like, how did I get here? I didn't know the reason. I didn't know that all of my problems were the direct result of my alcoholism and my drug addiction. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I didn't know. One of the guards in that particular jail knew me from the street. He was a guy who knew my mom, who knew my family, who knew a lot about me. He said, Jimmy, what happened to you? You used to be a good kid. Little League, Babe Ruth, Pop Warner, all that stuff. What happened? And I didn't have an answer. But then I decided to do my time and get out of there. When anybody wanted to do anything crazy, I'm like, nope, reading a book. Nope, nope, nope. And I got out. But that wasn't the end for me. It didn't stop me from drinking. The first day out, my grandfather picked me up. He had a 6-pack in the front seat. I drank it before we got home, and I was off to the races. And there I had learned a lot of new ways to make money to get high. A lot of new ways to go drinking. By the time I was 20, 21, I could open a safe. I could shut down an alarm. I was making money, lots of money. And it was all about drinking. We would go into the bar, buy a big shotism, buy everybody drinks. Hey! But when we didn't have any money, we didn't have any friends. You buy me beer? Oh man, get a beer. And that's just how it was. Charlie, my partner, used to say, when we got money, we're funny. When we're broke, we're a joke. And that's just the way it was. I kept getting popped for different things, and all of them drug and alcohol related. I was either drunk or hungover or high. Again, sober, I'm a really level-headed thinking guy. One night, drunk, we decided to hijack a yellow rider rental van full of leather coats. And it was like, how did they spot us? Someone must have ratted us out. It could have been the yellow van. But I ran into a judge, and I knew they wanted to send me to jail, so I got into a program. I was good at getting into programs. I got into a university program, a place called Brandeis University, and they offered me a full 4-year scholarship. Because I was a smart kid. I am a smart guy. But, I was only going to this program to A, stay out of jail, and B, they gave me a stipend check every Friday. So I would walk in the front door, get the check, walk out the back door, go right to the liquor store. And that's how I lived. When I went in front of the judge for hijacking the truck, he said, you brought all, because I brought everybody. I bring politicians and letters and, mayors and city councilors and, because I'm an escape artist. I know how to do all that. Hey, remember I worked on your election? I need a little favor. And they'd send a letter, and when I got into this school program, like 4 of the teachers showed up. The dean showed up. He's a good kid, he's really smart, he's really applying himself. Again, I was just going there for the stipend check, so I could drink. The judge said, you might think you're fooling them, but you're not fooling me. He said, I'm going to give you a suspended sentence, but if you come in front of me again, you're going to get a real prison sentence. And I knew what a real prison sentence was. See, in 1980, all the guys I had been in jail with in 1974, 75, and 76, they all had graduated. They weren't getting the 2-year or the 4-year sentences. They were now getting 5 to 7, 7 to 11, 5 to 20, And I didn't want to go to real jail. And I heard that. We are really smart people. And occasionally, the light goes on. And I heard that he was going to give me a real prison sentence. So I stopped hanging out with the thieves. I stopped hanging out with the hijackers. I now started drinking with the guys who played softball, and I got drunk jobs. And we all know what drunk jobs are. They're jobs that I can drink and pay the rent. And it was definitely in that order. Because if I was drinking and I needed that money to drink and the landlord wasn't around, guess what? He wasn't getting paid. And that's how my life went. I got a job in a hotel that was 2 blocks from my house. I was making a couple $100s a day in 1980, 1981. I would wake up the next morning from getting home from work. I was a waiter in this hotel. I would wake up with $7. Where'd my money go? It went to the bar. That's just how my life was. I was constantly getting in relationships with women who drank the way I did. We would drink for oblivion. We would drink to, forget. Drink to not feel. I had lost all that potential, all that promise, so I needed to forget about that. So now I was drinking just to stop thinking about, who I could have been, what I could have been, what I wanted to be. Now I was really just, an ordinary barfly drunk. I would go to work, maybe. I would show up on time occasionally. I would get paid, and now I'm in a hotel, and they gave me the key to the liquor storeroom. That's like giving the mice the key to the cheese. It was just hard. I drank every day. In 1987, I was hanging out with a guy in a bar. His name was Willie. Willie was a good guy, but he was also the president of the Hells Angels Massachusetts chapter. And there was always that going on. You know, I always needed to be near that kind of excitement, near that kind of craziness. And Willie sold cocaine. I sold Valiums. We were the perfect drinking buddies. We would sniff his Coke. We both drank Budweiser, clanking the Budweiser. We both could recite the label. And we would do my Valiums at the end of the night to take the edge off. So one night in the spring of 1987, I was out with Willie, and I didn't remember how I got home. And the next morning, who's that? State Police. Oh, State Police. What can I do for you? Were you with Willie so-and-so last night? Yeah, I was. Well, you were the last person seen with him when he was alive. What? We found him bound and gagged and beaten to death. And you were the last person seen with him. And I didn't remember how I got home. I was in a blackout. I didn't remember, I didn't remember any of it. I remember being at a bar with him. They said we had been to 3 other bars. I don't remember any of it. They told me not to leave the house. It was like on a Friday. I stayed in the house all weekend. I'm checking my clothes. I'm looking in the bathroom. Did I have any blood on me? And what happened is some guys decided to take Willie off for his cocaine and his money. And I was so drunk and so obnoxious, they decided to drop me off first. And then they took him and beat him to death and left him in the snow. That's the grace of God in my life. It took me about 2 years of sobriety to realize that was the grace of God in my life. Later on that year, I was arrested for drunk driving in a beach town. And the guy pulled up my record. He looked at it. He said, "What's your problem, pal? Drugs or alcohol?" And I was like, and he's like, "What's your problem? Drugs or alcohol?" And I started thinking, what's my problem? I mean, by then I already had 17 felony arrests, all drug and alcohol related. What's my problem, drugs or alcohol? I can stop drinking. Watch me stop drinking. I'm only going to drink on Tuesdays, or I'm only going to drink beer, or I'm only going to drink wine. I'm going to make sure I have some cocaine so I don't go into a blackout. I was a weekly blackout drinker. Not going to do those Valiums because they're going to make me go into a blackout. And I tried to be like Junior Chemist, to control that drinking, have one beer. I couldn't have one beer. As soon as I heard, if somebody went, or if I heard, see, they were the drugs, the booze. They were my higher power. They woke me up in the morning. They put me to sleep at night. They got me to work. They did it motivated me. I didn't have a higher power whom I choose to call God. Later on that year, I was in a relationship with a beautiful, smart, sexy, crazy drunk. Crazy drunk. And our relationship was, we were a lovely couple together. But we would get drunk and have like knockdown, drag out fist fights. And then makeup sex. And then we would apologize to each other and do it again. Well, one night she scratched my neck in front of some people, and I was like, "What? How dare you?" I said, "I don't want to see you anymore. You can't handle your drinking, and I don't want to see you anymore." She was like, "Big deal. I'm seeing some other guy anyway." Oof. Boy, that one hurt. It was around this time in 1987. And I went on a round-the-clock, wake up, wake and bake, wake and bud, wake and anything I could do not to feel that feeling of less than. But now the feeling of less than did the booze and the drugs didn't stop the feeling of less than. It just kept coming. I was trying to drink myself into oblivion, but I couldn't. I couldn't get drunk anymore. You know, but every fourth or fifth night I'd have 2 drinks and I'd go into a blackout. And it was really hard. Really, life was really hard. And I kept this job at the hotel. I don't know how. And around Christmas of 1987, you know, I'm now making $1,000 a week in 1987. Take home, right? I'm on a Thursday. On a Friday, I wake up with $4. I'm living with my mother because I couldn't pay the rent. My mother was sleeping with her pocketbook under her pillow because she didn't trust me. And she was right not to trust me. At that job, I was suspected of drinking on the job. I drank on that job every day. Every day. I go to the liquor store with the key, hide the, whatever. And around Christmas of 1987, we were freebasing in one of the bathrooms. And they accused me of drinking. I was like, how dare you accuse me of drinking? I'm going to personnel. And they were like, you go to personnel. Go ahead. Go to personnel. If it happens again, you're fired. And I couldn't not drink. I couldn't not drink. I had to. I had to drink. I had to drink to go to the bathroom. I had to drink to eat. I had to drink to shake your hand. I had to drink to stop shaking. I had to drink. It owned me. You know, the man takes a drink, the drink takes a drink, and then the drink takes the man. Well, the drink took me. And I couldn't go anywhere without it. I couldn't leave the house without a drink. And, they told me if it happened again, you're fired. So in 1987, New Year's of 1987, I went into work like, I'm not going to drink, 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 I'm not going to drink. Give me a drink. And of course, I ran into the lovely Lori, the woman who told me she was seeing some other guy. And every time I would see her, she would add a new little tidbit. Not only am I seeing another guy, we're moving in together. Not only am I seeing another guy and we're moving in together, we're engaged. And New Year's Eve, she said, not only am I seeing this other guy who I'm now living with and engaged to, I'm pregnant. And, give me a drink. And that night, New Year's Eve of 1987, I went into another one of my 3-drink blackouts. And I ended up, apparently, I ran into her in the hotel that we both worked in. I was swearing at her, calling her names. I was escorted from the building. I ended up in Central Square in Cambridge, and I had a tuxedo on, so I must have looked okay. It was New Year's Eve. It was now New Year's Day. And someone said, can you keep an eye on my car? I can't shut it off while I run into the store. How did he know I had stolen 100 cars in my life? So I got into his car and I drove away. And I didn't drive far. I drove around the block. I pulled over. I sat on the hood of the car and drank my carton of milk and ate my microwave burrito. And the police pulled up with the wagon. They didn't even bring a cruiser. They didn't even have the lights on. They pulled up in a wagon. The cop opened the door and he said, Jimmy, get in. They all knew who I was, and I went to jail. And I knew how to go to jail. I could give classes on getting arrested. And I was drunk, and I laid down and I went to sleep. I needed $1,000 cash bail. It was now New Year's Day. I called all my friends to come bail me out, and they all drank and did drugs the way I did. So $1,000 in cash in 1987 wasn't actually like just laying around. And I laid back down and went to sleep. But then I woke up with that hangover. You know the hangover. I need a drink. I need a drink. You know, I was shaking. I was sweating. The windows were open in the jail. They didn't give me a blanket. They took away my belt. They took my shoes. No pillow. And I needed a drink. I became that guy I didn't want to be. You know, the guy, if any of you have been arrested, the guy that's in jail yelling, "Let me out of here! Let me out of here!" I became that guy. You know, please let me out of here. I'll never do it again. And, you know, I was insane. The obsession and the compulsion were really kicking my butt. I needed a drink. I needed a drink. About 10:30 that night, I got on my knees in the Cambridge City Jail and asked God, the God of who, you know, my pinch hit God, please God, get me out of this one and I'll never do it again. And about a half an hour later, the cop came in and said, "Jimmy, I'm really sorry. Your friends came by about 4 o'clock this afternoon and they bailed you out." I've been bailed out for almost 7 hours. But I spent that time in jail. You know, and now in retrospect, I can see that it was just my higher power giving me the opportunity to surrender. I went home and stayed with my mother for the weekend, but I had to go back to court on Monday, and I used to walk into the courthouse like, "Judge, how's your son Larry? Is he still playing hockey?" You know, I used to kick his butt, you know. You know, I was I was just a jackass. And that day I didn't do that. That day I walked into the clerk's office. I walked into the courtroom. I checked in with the clerk. I walked into probation. I said, "I need to see somebody. I can't stop drinking and doing drugs." I just spent the weekend detoxing myself at my mother's house. The guy I knew from high school, his name was Ronnie Lane. Ronnie said, "Jimmy, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back." And he brought out a guy named Mark. And Mark told me it was going to be okay. "It's going to be okay?" He said, "Yeah, it's going to be okay." I said, "Maybe for you it's going to be okay, but they're going to fire me. I'm going to go to jail, blah, 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 blah." And he said, "It's going to be okay." About a week later, I was checked into a drug and alcohol rehab center in Spofford, New Hampshire. And I can tell you that when I walked through the doors, I remember feeling a physical sensation. Something happened. It wasn't a white light experience or anything like that. I thought I got to a place where it was like, it's going to be okay. This probation officer kept calling me while I was there and saying it's going to be okay, and I'm thinking, what does this guy want? He's a little fugazi, you know? What is he up to? And when I got out of rehab, I had to go back to court for stealing the guy's car. And the judge pulls out my record. He said, "I'll give you 6 months if you take it today. Or if you take this case to trial, they're going to give you 2 years." And I was like, "But I just got out of rehab." And he's like, "I don't care. You have a half an hour to think about it." So when he recessed, I went into the men's room in the Middlesex County Courthouse on the 13th floor. And I asked my higher power, whom I choose to call God, please, God, I need your help. Simple prayers. Simple prayers. And I went back into the courtroom, and the judge said, I don't know why I'm going to do this, but I'm going to give you a 2-year suspended sentence for 3 years. At which point the probation officer said, I told you it was going to be okay. About 2 weeks later, I walked into the Park Street group of Alcoholics Anonymous, which was my home group in Boston. And I turned the corner, and the greeter was the probation officer. See, that guy was just giving back to me what was freely given to him. I want to tell you that everything in the past 28 years, 9 months, and 1 day has been skipping and whistling. But it hasn't. It's been life on life's terms. I moved to New York to pursue a career that I always wanted to pursue. I have a great life. Some things worked out, some things didn't. I got fired from jobs. I got hired from jobs. In 2002, my mom, I'm a Patriots fan. Don't get mad. I'm a Patriots fan, and on the weekend before they won the Super Bowl for the first time, my mother died. And my mom, she was a huge sports fan, but I couldn't enjoy that. My mom passed away, but I did what I was supposed to do. I got on the train, I went to Boston sober, made the funeral arrangements sober, became the man my mother always wanted me to be, a man of self-respect, dignity, and honor. And that weekend, that Saturday morning when I made the funeral arrangements with a funeral director who happened to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was in Harvard Square walking around. I'm a cigar smoker. I'm smoking a cigar, and who do I run into? The probation officer. I was now 11 years sober, 12 years sober, and we talked about how the fact that he had helped me and how many people I was able to help because he helped me. And that was the gift. And I told him I wanted to drink. I said, I want to drink. And he said, Jimmy, how could you disrespect your mom by drinking? And it was like, whoa. And I didn't drink over that. There's no reason to drink. There are a lot of excuses for me to drink, but no reason. I want to tell you that everything, the career thing didn't go the way I wanted it to, but I'm sober alcoholic. We can move and groove. I'm in another career that I love. It's very creative. I make a great buck. I enjoy what I'm doing. I work with wonderful people. It's because I'm sober. I have a primary purpose. You know what that primary purpose is? Stay sober and help another alcoholic to achieve sobriety. Not get rich, not get famous, not get the right woman, not get the right apartment, not drive the right car. I made a deal on January 1st, 1988. Please, God, help me. And he did. So I have to give back what he gave me. My life is filled with sobriety. I have 12 sponsees, men and women. I only sponsor women who have more than 10 years of sobriety. Because as I tell them, I can't teach you how to be a woman. I can take you through the 12 steps, but you need another woman to do that. And that's just what I believe. It may or may not be true. At the ripe old age of 57, I decided to get married. I married a woman who's smarter than me, much more attractive than me, a lot younger than me. She makes more money than me. God is good. My higher power, whom I choose to call God, is a loving, abundant, kind, caring, considerate being. And I don't know what he looks like. You might know what your higher power looks like, but Mine keeps changing. The longer I get sober, the more I develop myself spiritually, it changes. And at one time I thought I had hit that spiritual ceiling, and I got big shotism. So now the company I'm working for, they give me a car, they pay for all this stuff, but they gave me a car and I forgot to tell them I didn't have a license. Because I'm gonna, willful, full of will. So I was driving home one night from a place called Hyannisport, Thanksgiving. I had just had Thanksgiving dinner with a very famous American family, whose members are sober as well, thinking I am king shit. Excuse me for swearing. I thought I was the cat's meow. Then I see the lights. Then they're pulling me over. Police officer said, license and registration. And now I'm 20 years sober. I don't have a driver's license. I have a record as long as my leg. And I said, He said, where are you coming from? I said, well, I just had Thanksgiving dinner. And he said, have you been drinking? It's like, no. He said, well, you forgot to put your blinker on. And I was like, I'm really sorry. He said, where's your license? I said, I left it at home. I lied. I didn't have a license. He said, okay, have a happy Thanksgiving. And he let me go on my way. And I went home, called my sponsor. He said, go get a driver's license. The next day, I took the permit test. I went online. I passed the test. I went online, booked an appointment. There was an appointment available on the Tuesday after. And how do you do that? I got the appointment. I went for the driving test. I passed the test. That's God. Then my sponsor called me up. He said, now, Jim, we have to go through the 12 steps of recovery, because all I'm hearing is self-will, self-will, self-will. And we did. I'm powerless over my self-will. My self-will has become unmanageable. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity as far as my willfulness goes. Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. And then did an inventory and told Him that inventory. And asked that those defects of character be removed. And asked God to, humbly remove my shortcomings. And on. And made amends. Told my boss what had happened. And that felt good. Freedom from the bondage of self. Because when I'm willful, life is hard. I think it's okay. But when I'm humble, when I'm giving it away, when I'm being of service, it's really easy. The first words out of my mouth every morning are, God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those, that I may help of Thy love, Thy power, and Thy way of life. And then I get up and I go and live my day. And at the end of the day, I meditate and, think about my day. And that's how I live, one day at a time. Yeah. And you know what? I'm happy. I don't know about happy, joyous, and free, but I'm happy. I have one part, and I'm sure as I go along, the rest of that stuff will come along. But I'm glad to be sober today. I'm glad to be here with all of you. Thank you for my sobriety.
please take time to thank our speakers. They travel long distance. We form a line afterwards. Thank you, Jimmy. We got Vinny G coming down from Connecticut next week. It'll be a party. Please join us. Please help us finish up the food if there's any left. The hot sausage sandwiches will return next week. Tim is always so generous with his ham sliders. Take a second to thank him. Tim, so many people. Thank you guys. We got a nice way of closing. Prepare to join us. There's a meeting after the meeting.